The newly released jobs numbers were unfortunately lower than expected, which is not good news, but don't worry, President Trump is on it. He's got a solution. Fire the person who released the numbers. Yes, America apparently only added 73,000 jobs in July. That is fewer than had been expected and is objectively a low number. At the same time, apparently the jobs that were added in May and June had been overestimated, and they were in fact 258,000 fewer jobs than we thought at first. And so that's 3 bad months in a row. At the same time, overall unemployment actually went up, which is never good. And reeling from all this information, Donald Trump took to Truth Social to say, I was just informed that our country's jobs numbers, in quotation marks, even though that's what they are being produced by a Biden appointee, Dr. Erica McIntyre, I believe it's pronounced, the Commissioner of Labor Statistics, who faked the jobs numbers before the election to try and boost Kamala's chances of capital V victory. This is the same Bureau of Labor Statistics that overstated the blah, 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 blah. The numbers were all wrong, they were bad, they were jacking them up when it was Biden. Now they're lying with him. These were records, no one can be that wrong. We need accurate jobs numbers. I have directed my capital T team to fire this Biden political appointee immediately. She will be replaced with someone much more competent and qualified. Important numbers like this must be fair and accurate. They can't be manipulated for political purposes, which is, I think, maybe the most ironic thing that's ever been written on the internet. So if you give out the numbers, we're gonna fire you and put in someone who will produce better numbers in the pursuit of political, like avoiding bias. Again, it doesn't make any sense. She said there were only 73,000 jobs added, but more importantly, that a major mistake was made before, that there was actually less. Similar things happened in the first part of the year, always to the negative. The economy is booming under, in quotation marks, Trump. He's questioning, I guess, whether that's actually his name, despite a Fed that plays games, this time with interest rates, blah, 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 blah. Something about how Powell should be put out to pasture, which sounds kind of like a vague threat. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So the tweets are bad, but he fired her. So I guess technically the economy produced one less job than even the report had said, I suppose. Yeah. But let me add just one more delicious layer of irony to all of this. So in his messages, he says, well, yeah, the economy's really good, even though the Fed's really bad, Jerome Powell. And then I see this reporting come out. Axios is like, alarming jobs report makes potent case for the Fed to cut interest rates. And Fox Business, a panel, blamed the Federal Reserve for those weak jobs numbers. And so Donald Trump has what he's been begging for, an excuse to change course at the Fed. But it relies on him admitting that the jobs numbers are bad, which he cannot do. And so it's within grasp, but he can't hold it because he hates the truth even more than he hates Jerome Powell.
I actually think that the explanation is a little bit simpler. I think that he doesn't know that if you have bad job numbers, that'll make the Fed want to stimulate the economy. And the way that they would stimulate the economy is by cutting interest rates. Now, if you have really great job numbers, which is what it appeared to be in the last couple of months, the Fed then holds off on cutting interest rates because they'd worry that they're going to overheat the economy and it would lead to inflation. So they're not going to cut the interest rates in that scenario. But I don't think that Trump even knows that. He's like, I want good job numbers and I want interest rates lower. They both make the economy better. No, it's not that simple because you can overheat the economy. And if you have really good job numbers, you don't want to cut the interest rates because it'll lead to inflation and ruin the economy. I want the lower interest rates. I don't want higher jobs. But that doesn't make any economic sense. This is why the guy hides all of his grades. You think this guy passed finance at Wharton? Come on, he doesn't know anything. Okay, now more. He says, these numbers are obviously meant to hurt me. Wait, hold on. Now, if you're a rookie at this stuff and you are not familiar with how the job numbers get reported, you might look and go, oh my God, they're adjusting the last couple of months down so many jobs. Well, yeah, it looks like they're playing with the numbers. No, job numbers get adjusted all the time. It's an initial guess as to how they ended the month, and then they go back and see is it true or not true. Under both Democratic and Republican administrations, happens all the time to get the real numbers. The one first is their estimate, the second is real, right? Based on information that they collected. And it goes, does it sometimes get adjusted down and sometimes up? Absolutely. Under Republicans, Democrats, absolutely, right? But wait, there's one more thing. So if she's trying to do a hatchet job on Trump and ruin the economy and ruin his standing and stuff, why did she report such inflated numbers the last 2 months? Because the real numbers, it turns out, were much lower. That's why they had to adjust them downward now, right? So if Trump is right, then maybe she's a Trump fan. Because the last 2 months, she made Trump look way better than he was actually doing. Like we had not added that many jobs at all, but she said we did because she had a wrong estimate, which is again, very normal, right? So why would she want to make Trump look better? And how does that jive with his asinine theory? It doesn't make any sense at all because he doesn't even know how to make sense on these issues because he doesn't understand any of it. And finally, when you play around with facts and you say, I don't want people working for my government to be factually correct. I just want them to make me happy. The politician in charge needs, for you to fluff me and make me happy. That there's a phrase for that. Political correctness. I don't want you to be factually correct. I want you to be politically correct. So he is very, very literally doing political correctness by firing her.
Which is the last thing he'd want to hear anybody say about him. The other thing, I mean, it's a funny story, like parts of it, like all of this thing. It's quite comical with the way John set it up. It's ironic and even a little bit funny that he's undoing himself. He would have to admit this in order to try and solve the problem. The problem though is that it's not funny, and this is what dictators do. This is what authoritarians do. This is not at all comical, and it's disturbing the way this person is running this country like a dictatorship now, and continues to be coddled by a media that he has massaged in such a way that they go along with it. Blaming, the politics of jobs numbers is really old politics. People always use it. Are we happy that the other side is getting bad jobs numbers, even though it means the economy is tanking? Yes, that's what happens in the most base parts of politics when you're talking just about the politics. But this is different, and this is really ugly, and this is really, really un-American.
Yeah. No, feel free.
I was just going to say, look, Michael's 100% right. It has banana republic energy, and like if Bernie had won, and then he started doing this type of nonsense. Oh, I don't like the job numbers, so I'm going to fire the person who gave me the numbers. I would immediately think, oh, I've made a terrible mistake. This person is not fit to be president. So we didn't come here for your ego, brother. Okay, we came here to get things done. So I'd be crestfallen if someone I supported did this. Yeah. But then I lived in the reality-based world, so I don't know. So it depends on if you're going to believe Trump's nonsense lies or if you're going to believe what's real. Because if you understand that this is real, I would hope that you'd be horrified by anyone who's firing government officials for political correctness and to protect the ego of a politician.
Yeah, this is the sort of thing that frustrates me the most about the unwillingness of half of the country to see who he is. Like, I get that people are partisan, and I get that like us, like trying to convince a hardcore conservative about some wonky policy, that's tough, man. But like, you can't understand that this guy will never own up to any failure, any bad news, never take responsibility for anything. That does not require a public policy degree. You know that if there were people in your life like that, you would have no respect for them whatsoever. Why do you respect this guy? You know that he's never gonna take responsibility for anything. And what he's doing, like when he replaces this woman, who by the way, was voted in 2024, overwhelmingly bipartisan vote, one of them being JD Vance himself, who voted to put her into that position to undercut Trump or whatever. She's gonna be replaced by some sort of loyalist. And like people throw the term like Orwellian around, like George Orwell. But I would just remind everyone, in 1984, the main character's job with the Ministry of Truth, which is what this is gonna become, is literally to go back and change the numbers of like things that were produced. Like we said we were gonna make this many pairs of shoes, oh, we didn't do it. So no, we never said that. Actually, we said we were only gonna make 1/10 as many shoes, and we made more than that. Like this is as Orwellian, specifically a thing as I've ever seen. And it doesn't work for the economy. Benji Sarlin of the Washington Post had a great tweet. Can't wait to buy more treasuries, and the country purging its job statistics staff when they don't show the leader's economy is booming. And can you be surprised that the job numbers are bad? We've had tariff chaos. We've had a shutdown of international trade that is gonna hurt businesses. And so why would jobs be booming in the context of everything that he's done with the economy?
Yeah, last thing for me is, how can you tell if someone is lying? And in this case, Donald Trump. Well, have they ever been honest with you? Like, so for example, after the election, this time around, I did a video saying, here's one thing that I got wrong for sure, among probably many, which is that I thought the Republican pollsters like Rasmussen were full of crap. And I thought they were polling the wrong people, et cetera. And it turned out, no, they actually had the most accurate numbers. Facts matter, right? And I'm like, sorry guys, I didn't mean to mislead you on that. Now I see it. I'll take those numbers more seriously. I was doing it based on their past track record, but this time they nailed it, right? So that's how an honest person acts. I give you dozens of those type of examples. Now, do you remember a single time that Donald Trump has told you, oh, my bad, yeah, I got that one wrong. I meant well, but I got it wrong?
No.
I can't remember a single time.
Of course not. Of course not. And going to just to what you were saying about if you had voted for Senator Sanders and he became president, you would vote for him not wanting him to do that. There's a whole segment of people that voted for this guy who knew that he is the person who does that. And then when he does it, this is what we get. So there is a difference there. That they don't necessarily not want this. They want that kind of dictator. We heard them firsthand say to me and to Zeffrey that we would prefer to have Donald Trump as a dictator than Joe Biden as a president.
Yeah, there is a radical right in his contingent for sure that want that. Yeah. And I would argue, it's a significant percentage of his base, not the whole thing, but a significant percentage. So for those guys, they feel like power is power, and they want power, and they keep saying that everybody's got Trump derangement syndrome. But here, look, you've seen us do it. You've seen it with your own eyes. We've called out the Democrats when they were wrong. We called out Biden for being too old and et cetera, when he was obviously too old and all the Democrats were lying about it. So, but in this case, so they think, okay, lying is worth it, means justify the end, right? Or the ends justify the means, sorry. But if you're backing this guy and you're comfortable with it, how do you know he's not lying to you? Like you say, like, oh, okay, I'm good with all the lies because we're gonna get the Democrats. And I think, you keep saying Trump derangement syndrome, but we don't have that. We give credit where credit is due and discredit where discredit is due. But I think what drives a lot of those guys, the radical right, is Democratic derangement syndrome, right? They hate the Democrats so much that they're like, just beat them by any means necessary.
Yeah.
But when you do that, you're picking a guy who's a pathological liar. What's to stop him from lying to you? And then when I asked Curtis Yarvin, who's supposed to be the intellectual leader of the monarchy movement, which is another word for dictator, right? And I had him on the show and I said, dictators, the very first thing they do is they shoot all of their allies because they're closer to power. So what happens if the dictator comes after you? And of course he didn't have an answer, because having a dictator is a terrible idea. And so if you care about this country, this is not the guy to support.
No, not at all.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.